I stood under those blinding spotlights, feeling smaller than I had in my entire 67 years. My son Tyler held the microphone, his perfect smile gleaming as cameras flashed across the luxury ballroom. Anyone want my boring dad? Starting at $1. The crowd of San Francisco's elite laughed. People whispered, snickered behind champagne flutes. Silence followed. Nobody bidding. My heart sank into my stomach. Then, from somewhere in the back, a quiet but steady voice cut through the noise. "I'll bid $1 million." The room went completely silent. Tyler's grin froze solid on his face. I could not see who had spoken. The spotlights were too bright, turning everyone in the audience into shadowy silhouettes. Security guards began moving through the crowd, parting the sea of tuxedos and evening gowns. A woman emerged from the back of the ballroom. She looked to be in her late 50s, maybe early 60s, with silver hair pulled back in an elegant twist. Her dress was simple but clearly expensive, the kind of understated wealth that did not need to announce itself. She walked with the confidence of someone who had spent decades in boardrooms and never once doubted her right to be there. Tyler stood frozen at the podium. His mouth opened and closed like a fish pulled from water. "I'm sorry, what?" He finally managed to stammer. The woman reached the stage, climbed the 3 steps with practiced ease, and stood face to face with my son. She pulled a checkbook from her clutch purse. Right there, in front of 500 guests, she wrote out a check. The scratch of her pen against paper was the only sound in that massive ballroom. Eleanor Wright," she said, her voice carrying without needing amplification, and completely serious. She handed the check to the charity organizer, a nervous woman in her 40s who looked like she might faint. $1 million for one day of this gentleman's time, as the auction listing stated. Tyler's business partners, 2 men in their 30s who had been laughing along with the joke moments before, exchanged worried glances. One of them, a man named Derek, whose father owned half of Silicon Valley, tugged at his collar. The other, Philip, pulled out his phone and started typing frantically. "This is ridiculous," Tyler said, trying to regain control. His voice cracked slightly. "Dad's not actually for sale. It was a joke. Everyone knows that." Eleanor turned to him with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Then why did you auction him? This is a legally binding charity event. All items listed in the program are considered contractual once payment is rendered. I've purchased a day of your father's time, as clearly stated in your auction description." She tapped the glossy program that every guest had received upon entering. Tyler's lawyer, a sharp-faced man named Richard who charged $700 an hour, rushed to the stage and whispered frantically in Tyler's ear. I watched my son's face cycle through emotions: confusion, anger, fear, and finally something close to panic. The lawyer nodded to Eleanor, then to the charity organizer. The transaction was legitimate. The charity had accepted the money. The contract was binding. Eleanor turned to me. Up close, I could see kindness in her gray eyes, something warm beneath the business exterior. "Mr. Desmond, would you have dinner with me tomorrow evening? I'd like to discuss a business opportunity." I had not spoken since being called to the stage 15 minutes earlier. My throat felt tight, my mind spinning. "Yes," I managed to say. "Yes, I would." Tyler tried to salvage the situation, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow in the silent room. "Well, Dad's retired. He has nothing to offer in terms of business. But sure, enjoy your dinner." He was trying to dismiss the whole thing, to make it seem small and meaningless. Eleanor smiled, and this time there was something sharp in it, something that made Tyler take a step back. "Your father holds 17 patents in precision mechanical engineering," Eleanor said, her voice clear and steady. "I've done my research quite thoroughly." The color drained from Tyler's face. He clearly had no idea about those patents. I had filed them over 30 years of work, improvements, and innovations on manufacturing processes. Most were gathering dust, unused since my company had downsized and let me go 6 months ago. Eleanor was not finished. "Patents that your company, Vision Tech Solutions, currently uses without proper licensing agreements. The room erupted in whispers. Phones came out. People started recording. Tyler's business partners looked genuinely alarmed now. Derek grabbed Tyler's arm, said something urgent and angry that I could not hear. "I represent Apex Industrial Group," Eleanor continued, addressing the room now as much as Tyler. "We specialize in intellectual property rights and patent enforcement in the technology sector. We've been tracking various infringements, and Vision Tech has appeared on our radar several times in the past year." She reached into her clutch and pulled out a business card, handed it to me. The card was heavy, expensive paper. Apex Industrial Group, Eleanor Wright, Senior Vice President of Legal Affairs. "Mr. Desmond, I believe we should discuss what your son's company owes you. I suspect it's quite a bit more than whatever initial investment you provided." I took the card with shaking hands. Tyler tried to follow me as I walked off the stage with Eleanor, but Derek and Philip grabbed him, pulled him aside. Through the crowd, I could hear Tyler's voice rising. "Dad, wait. Let's talk about this privately." "Don't listen to her." I stopped, turned, looked at my son, really looked at him. For the first time in months. When had he become this person? This arrogant, entitled stranger wearing my son's face? "You had 6 months to talk to me privately, Tyler," I said, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. "You chose to humiliate me instead." Eleanor's driver, a professional-looking man in his 40s, appeared and escorted me toward the exit. As we walked through the ballroom, people stepped aside. Some looked sympathetic, others looked curious. A few looked angry on my behalf. One older gentleman, someone I did not recognize, nodded to me with respect. The car was a black sedan, comfortable and quiet. Eleanor slid in beside me as the driver pulled away from the hotel. Through the tinted windows, I could see photographers gathering on the sidewalk, cameras flashing. "I apologize for the dramatic entrance," Eleanor said, her voice softer now that we were alone. "But I needed to make a point publicly. Your son has been operating under the assumption that he's untouchable. That needed to be challenged in front of his peers and investors." "How did you know about the patents?" I asked. My mind was still trying to catch up with everything that had happened in the last 20 minutes. "My company employs investigators who track patent use across industries. When we ran Vision Tech's products through our analysis, your name appeared repeatedly in the original development documentation. Your son's company has built their flagship smart manufacturing sensors using modifications of your precision algorithms you developed and patented independently from your former employer." I remembered those algorithms. I had spent years perfecting them, working late nights in my garage after Margaret had gone to bed. She would bring me coffee, kiss the top of my head, tell me I was going to change the world. She believed in my work even when nobody else did. "My former company owns those patents," I said. "They own the basic versions," Eleanor corrected. "But you filed separate patents for the improved modifications. Those patents list you as the sole inventor and owner. Your employment contract allowed you to maintain rights to any innovations you developed on your own time with your own resources. I'm guessing you never thought much about it because the applications seemed theoretical at the time." She was right. I had filed those patents more as a formality than anything else. The technology had seemed too advanced for practical use back then. Manufacturing companies were not ready for that level of precision automation. But apparently, 20 years later, they were. Eleanor handed me a folder. "This is preliminary research. It'll have a complete analysis ready for our dinner tomorrow. But I wanted you to see the basics tonight." I opened the folder. Inside were pages of technical specifications, financial reports, and legal documentation. One number jumped out at me, highlighted in yellow on page 3. $7 million. That was the estimated value of patent licensing fees and damages that Vision Tech potentially owed me. $7 million for 3 years of unauthorized use. I had given Tyler $250,000 from my retirement savings. He had turned it into a multi-million-dollar company. And he owed me $7 million. My son tried to sell me for $1. I said quietly, staring at the number. Eleanor's voice was gentle but firm. "Your son tried to erase you, Desmond. Instead, he's about to make you a very wealthy man." The next evening, I met Eleanor at a restaurant in downtown San Francisco, the kind of place where they did not list prices on the menu because if you had to ask, you probably should not be eating there. She had brought 2 lawyers and a patent specialist, a quiet man in his 50s named Dr. Harold Chen, who had taught at MIT for 20 years before joining Apex Industrial Group. They spread documents across our private dining room table like generals planning a campaign. Dr. Chen walked me through the technical details with the patience of a born teacher. Your patents cover 3 critical areas, he explained, pointing to diagrams I had drawn decades ago: precision calibration algorithms, real-time adjustment protocols, and error correction mechanisms. These form the backbone of modern smart manufacturing. Vision tech sensors use all 3, with only minor modifications to the surface code. The underlying mathematics are identical to your work. One of the lawyers, a woman named Patricia who reminded me of my late wife in the way she listened intently before speaking, laid out the legal framework. Vision Tech generated approximately $60 million in revenue from these sensors over the past 3 years. The standard licensing fee for this type of technology ranges from 10 to 15% of gross revenue. Even at the conservative end, you're owed at least $6 million in licensing fees alone, plus damages for willful infringement. The other lawyer added. He was younger, maybe 40, with the aggressive energy of someone who loved a good fight. His name was Marcus. If we can prove they knew about your patents and used them anyway, we can pursue additional penalties. Eleanor sat back, watching me process all of this. Desmond, I want to be clear about what we're offering. Apex Industrial Group will represent you in this matter. We'll handle all legal costs, all investigation expenses, all court fees if it comes to that. In exchange, we take 20% of whatever you recover. That seems low, I said, for this kind of work. She smiled. We do this often, and in volume. 20% of multiple cases adds up. Plus, your case is particularly strong. The documentation is clear, the infringement is obvious, and your son's public behavior has already damaged his credibility. This won't be a long, drawn-out battle. I thought about it for maybe 30 seconds. All right, let's do it. We signed the representation agreement right there over dessert. Marcus promised to file the initial complaint within 48 hours. I did not make it home before Tyler showed up at my apartment. I lived in a small one-bedroom place in the Sunset District, about 40 minutes from his penthouse in Soma. He must have been waiting in his car, watching for me, because he was out and knocking on my door within 5 minutes of my arrival. Dad, please, we need to talk. His voice came through the door, urgent and strained. I opened it. Tyler looked terrible. His hair was messy, his eyes red-rimmed. He wore jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt, so different from his usual polished appearance that I almost felt sorry for him. Come in, I said. He paced my small living room like a caged animal. Dad, this is crazy. We can work this out. Family doesn't sue family. Family doesn't humiliate family at charity galas, either, I replied, sitting down on my worn couch. But here we are. Tyler ran his hands through his hair. That was stupid, okay? It was a joke that went too far. I'm sorry. I really am. But this lawsuit, this is going to destroy everything I've built. Everything we built, I corrected quietly. You built it on my money, and apparently my work. It'll pay back the $250,000, he said quickly. With interest. Whatever you want. Just drop this patent thing. It's not about the money anymore, Tyler. I stood up, faced him. It's about respect. It's about honesty. It's about you acknowledging that I contributed to your success instead of treating me like some embarrassing relic you need to hide from your important friends. His face flushed red. That's not fair. I've been busy. Building a company is hard work. I didn't have time for weekly dinners and phone calls. You had time to forge my signature on loan documents. The words came out flat, hard. I had not planned to mention that yet, but it spilled out anyway. Tyler froze. What are you talking about? Eleanor's investigators are very thorough. They found the loan you took out 2 years ago, $3 million, using my house as collateral, the house your mother's life insurance paid off. the house that was supposed to be my security. The color drained from his face. Dad, I can explain that. Please do. Explain to me how you forged my signature. Explain how you put my home at risk without telling me. Explain how you thought that was acceptable. Tyler sank onto my couch, put his head in his hands. The company needed capital. Banks wanted collateral. You weren't using the house for anything. I thought I'd pay it back before you ever found out. But you didn't pay it back. You just kept lying. I felt something break inside me. Some last thread of hope that there was a reasonable explanation for all of this. You didn't just steal my money, Tyler. You stole my life's work, my security, my dignity, and you did it while telling yourself it was fine because I was just your boring dad who didn't understand your world. He looked up at me, and I saw something I had not seen in years. Genuine fear, not fear of consequences, but fear that he had truly, irreparably broken something between us. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I want you to face the consequences of your choices. That's the only way you learn. That's the only way you become the man your mother believed you could be." He left without another word. I listened to his footsteps echo down the hallway, heard his car start and drive away. Then I sat in my quiet apartment and wondered if I was doing the right thing. Margaret would have wanted me to forgive him. But Margaret had also taught Tyler better than this. She had raised him, to be honest, to work hard, to treat people with respect. Somewhere along the way, he had forgotten those lessons. Maybe this was the only way to remind him. Marcus filed the lawsuit on Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, it was all over the tech news sites. Vision Tech founder, sued by father over patent infringement, Silicon Valley wonderkind. Accused of stealing dad's innovations. Family drama. Tech CEO faces $7 million lawsuit. Eleanor called me that evening. The press is having a field day. Tyler's office has been calling us non-stop, wanting to settle. Already, I had expected this to take months. Your son's investors are nervous. Patent lawsuits can tank a company's valuation overnight. They want this resolved before it impacts their next funding round. Over the following week, Eleanor's investigation team dug deeper. They found emails, internal documents, presentation materials. The paper trail was damning. In one email from 18 months ago, Tyler had forwarded my patent documents to his lead engineer with the message, "Check these out. Old man's work from the 90s. See if we can update it for our sensors." The lead engineer had replied, "This is solid, better than what we've been using. Sure, we can legally use this." Tyler's response, "Has my dad, family shares. Don't worry about it." Patricia showed me the emails in Eleanor's office. "This is what we call willful infringement. He knew about your patents, understood they were protected, and used them anyway. That opens him up to enhanced damages, but they found something else, too. Something that made the whole picture darker." Eleanor's investigator, a former FBI agent named Gloria, brought in a stack of documents on Tuesday morning. We found the loan papers. "The forgery is obvious. Your son didn't even try to match your signature style. He just scribbled something close and hoped the bank wouldn't check." "Can we prove he did it?" I asked. "The bank has security footage. Tyler came in alone, signed the papers himself, told them you were too ill to come in person. Then he provided a medical document, also forged, claiming you had authorized him to act on your behalf." Gloria pulled out a photograph, surveillance footage from the bank. There was Tyler, 2 years younger, sitting at a desk signing papers with my name, the casual arrogance in his posture, the easy smile as he chatted with the loan officer, made my stomach turn. "If we pursue this criminally, as looking at fraud charges," Gloria said. "Multiple counts. The forged signature, the fake medical documents, the false statements to the bank. That's serious prison time in California." Eleanor must have seen something in my face because she held up a hand. "We don't have to go that route, Desmond. This can stay civil. But you should know the full scope of what your son did." I went home that night and could not sleep. I kept seeing that surveillance photo. Tyler, smiling and confident, betting that I would never find out. Betting that even if I did, I would be too weak or too loving to do anything about it. He had been so certain of my powerlessness. Tyler showed up at my apartment again on Wednesday. This time he did not knock. I heard a key in the lock and realized he still had the spare key I had given him years ago, back when he used to visit regularly. "You can't just walk in here," I said as he entered. "We need to talk. Now, in private." He looked worse than before. His eyes were wild, desperate. "Dad, do you have any idea what you're doing? My investors are threatening to pull out. My board wants me to step down. Brittany broke up with me. It's all falling apart." Brittany was his fiancée, a woman I had met twice who seemed more interested in Tyler's money than Tyler himself. I was not surprised she had left when things got difficult. "None of that is my fault," I said calmly. "I didn't create this situation. You did. I know." He was shouting now, something he rarely did. "I know I messed up. I know I was arrogant and stupid. But you're really going to destroy what I built? Everything I worked for." "What about what I worked for?" I asked, matching his volume. 40 years in engineering, 17 patents, a lifetime of innovation. You took that and claimed it as yours. You erased me from my own story. "I was going to tell you," he said, but it sounded hollow even to him. "Eventually, when the company was more stable, I was going to make you a partner or something. When? After you'd made hundreds of millions. After you'd built your empire on my foundation and convinced yourself you did it all alone." I shook my head. "Tyler, you're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught." He slumped against my wall, slid down to sit on the floor. For a moment, he looked like a child again, like the little boy who used to crawl into my lap when he was scared during thunderstorms. "I don't know who I am anymore," he said quietly. "I got so caught up in the success, the money, the status. People treated me like I was special, like I was a genius. I started believing it. Started thinking I didn't need anyone, that I'd done it all myself." "Your mother would be so disappointed," I said. It was cruel, but it was true. He flinched like I had hit him. "I know. I think about that every day." We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Tyler stood up, handed me his spare key. "I should go. Just tell me one thing. Do you hate me?" I looked at my son. This man I had raised, this stranger I barely recognized. "No, but I don't like who you've become, and am not going to enable it anymore." He left the key on my counter and walked out. This time, he closed the door quietly behind him. The next day, Eleanor called with more news. "Tyler's business partners are trying to cut him loose. They're offering to settle with you independently, claiming Tyler acted without their knowledge. They want to throw him under the bus to save the company." "Can they do that?" "Legally, it's complicated. But they're also pushing for criminal charges on the forgery. If Tyler takes the fall alone, they think they can save Vision Tech's reputation." I thought about Tyler sitting on my floor, lost and broken. Thought about him as a child, building robots in our garage with Margaret cheering him on. Thought about the man he had become, cruel and arrogant. And I thought about which version was the truth, or if both were. "What happens if they succeed?" I asked. "Tyler loses everything. The company, his reputation, possibly his freedom. He'll be personally liable for all the damages, easily 10 million or more once we add up everything. His partners walk away clean, and your son becomes the cautionary tale." "And what do you recommend?" Eleanor paused. "Professionally, I recommend we take their offer. You get paid, they get to save face, and Tyler learns a very expensive lesson. Personally, that's your son. Only you can decide how much punishment is enough." That night, I drove out to Margaret's grave for the first time in 6 months. I sat on the grass beside her headstone and talked to her the way I used to talk to her in our kitchen, over morning coffee, about everything and nothing. "I don't know what to do," I told her. "Hez our son, but he's become someone I don't recognize. You always knew how to reach him. You always knew what to say. I don't have that gift." The wind rustled through the trees. A family walked past, laying flowers on a nearby grave. An old man, maybe 80, tended to his wife's plot with careful, loving attention. I thought about Gerald, my old mentor from my engineering days. He was 82 now, retired, living up in Portland. On impulse, I called him Desmond. His voice was warm, familiar. I've been reading about your situation. Quite the mess. That's one way to put it. Want some unsolicited advice from an old man, please? My son David nearly destroyed my business 20 years ago. Made terrible decisions, cost me everything it built. I had a choice then, same as you do now. I could destroy him completely, or I could try to teach him. I chose teaching. Hardest thing I ever did. Did it work? Eventually. Took years. He had to lose everything first. Had to really understand what had done wrong. But he came back from it. Now he runs a successful firm, takes care of me in my old age, and he's a good man. Better than he was, anyway. How did you know when to stop punishing him? Gerald was quiet for a moment. When I realized that justice and revenge aren't the same thing. You deserve to be compensated, absolutely. But ask yourself, do you want a son, or do you want to be right? After we hung up, I sat with Margaret a while longer. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that she had always loved. I remembered her voice, soft and certain. Tyler's got a good heart. Sometimes young men need to get lost so they can find their way home. Maybe this was Tyler's getting lost. Maybe I needed to leave breadcrumbs so he could find his way back. The following Monday, 3 weeks after the gala, I called Eleanor with a proposal. Instead of accepting Tyler's partner's offer or pursuing maximum damages, I wanted to structure a different kind of settlement. Tell me what you're thinking, she said. Always willing to listen. Tyler needs to face consequences. Real ones. But I don't want him destroyed. I want him educated. Explain. I laid out my terms. VisionTech would pay the full $7 million in licensing fees plus interest. Tyler would personally repay the $250,000 I had invested with market rate interest, bringing it to roughly $320,000. The forged loan on my house would be resolved by transferring it entirely to Tyler's personal liability and removing my house from the collateral completely. That's the financial piece, I continued. But here's the rest. Tyler has to step down as CEO. Not from the board, not from ownership, just from operational control. He keeps his shares, he keeps his stake in the company, but he has to earn his way back to leadership, and he has to make a public apology, a real one, acknowledging what he did. Eleanor was quiet for a moment. His partners will jump at this. It saves the company and removes Tyler from day-to-day operations, which is what they want anyway. But what about the forgery? That's criminal. I want the criminal charges dropped as part of the settlement. If he complies with everything, fully and publicly, then we don't pursue that. You're giving him a way out. I'm giving him a way forward. There's a difference. Eleanor's voice softened. You're a better man than most, Desmond. I'm a father. That comes with certain obligations. She presented the terms to Tyler's lawyers that afternoon. They called back within 2 hours, eager to accept. Tyler, apparently, had been harder to convince. Hess, refusing the public apology, Marcus told me, says it will ruin his reputation permanently. His reputation is already ruined, I said. The apology is about taking responsibility. If he can't do that, then we go to trial and pursue everything, including the criminal charges. Tyler called me that night. His voice was tight, controlled. Dad, please, don't make me humiliate myself publicly. You humiliated me publicly, I reminded him. At your gala, in front of 500 people. Turnabout is fair play. That was different. How? He had no answer. Tyler, listen to me. This is the best deal you're going to get. Your partners want you gone completely. The prosecutors want you in prison. I'm offering you a path where you keep your company, keep your freedom, and get a chance to rebuild. All you have to do is tell the truth. And if I refuse, then I'll see you in court. And I'll win. You know I'll win. The evidence is overwhelming. He hung up without responding. For 2 days, I heard nothing. Then, on Wednesday evening, Marcus called. He agreed. All terms. We're scheduling the press conference for Friday. Friday arrived with gray skies and the threat of rain. The press conference was scheduled for 2 o'clock at the Fairmont Hotel, the same place where the gala had occurred exactly 1 month earlier. Eleanor thought the symmetry was important. We're taking back the narrative in the same space where it started, she said, as we prepared in a conference room. That matters psychologically, both for you and for the public watching. Tyler arrived 30 minutes before the scheduled start. He wore a dark suit, no tie, and looked like he had aged 5 years in 5 weeks. His face was drawn, his eyes hollow. When he saw me, he stopped in the doorway. Dad. Tyler. We stood there, an ocean of hurt and history between us, while lawyers and PR consultants bustled around preparing statements and arranging microphones. Finally, Tyler crossed the room. I wrote something for the apology. My PR team prepared a statement, but I want to say what I need to say. He handed me a piece of paper, folded in quarters. I opened it, read his handwritten words. It was honest, raw, more emotional than anything I had expected. No corporate language, no hedging, just truth. This is good, I said quietly. I've had a lot of time to think about who I became, about what I did to you. His voice cracked. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that I finally understand. Eleanor appeared at my elbow. We're ready. The room is full. Cameras are set up. Desmond, you'll be seated to the side with me. Tyler will speak from the podium, then we'll take questions. Keep your answers brief and stick to the facts. The ballroom was packed. News crews from every major outlet. Reporters with recording devices, photographers with cameras bearing lenses the size of small telescopes. The business press was out in force. I recognized faces from TechCrunch, Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal. We walked in together, Tyler and I, with Eleanor between us like a referee. The room went quiet. Camera flashes created a strobe effect that made my eyes water. Tyler took his position at the podium, set down the paper with his prepared remarks, took a breath, and began. 5 weeks ago, in this very room, I committed an act of profound cruelty. I put my father on an auction block and tried to sell him for $1, all for a cheap laugh from people I wanted to impress. His voice was steady but thick with emotion. I thought I was being clever, funny. I thought it showed how successful I was, that I could make my own father the butt of a joke. He paused, swallowed hard. I was wrong. It showed how small I had become, how arrogant, how willing I was to hurt someone who had sacrificed everything for me, just to make myself feel important. Tyler looked down at his notes, but did not read from them. He folded the paper and set it aside. My father, Desmond, worked for 40 years as a mechanical engineer. He held 17 patents, innovations that changed manufacturing processes across multiple industries. When my mother died 3 years ago, he could have retired, traveled, enjoyed his life. Instead, he gave me $250,000 from his savings to start my company, money he needed for his own future. Money he gave freely because he believed in me. The room was absolutely silent, except for the soft whir of cameras. I turned that investment into a successful company. Vision Tech Solutions is worth over $80 million today. We employ 200 people. We've revolutionized smart manufacturing, and I did it, in large part, by stealing my father's work. I used his patents without permission, without payment, without even telling him. I convinced myself it was fine because he was my father and family shares, but I never asked. I just took. Tyler's voice broke. He stopped, composed himself. A tear ran down his face, and he did not wipe it away. Then I compounded my theft by forging his signature on loan documents. I put his house, the home my mother's life insurance paid for, at risk without his knowledge. I betrayed his trust in the most fundamental way possible. And when he needed help, when he lost his job and asked me to repay the money he had loaned me, I turned him away. Told him he was embarrassing me. Told him to stay away from my events. He looked directly at me now. Dad taught me integrity. My mother taught me compassion. I abandoned both for status and money. I'm deeply, profoundly sorry. To my father, to my mother's memory, to everyone who believed I was better than this." The silence stretched. Then Tyler continued, his voice stronger now. "Today, I'm announcing my resignation as CEO of Vision Tech Solutions. I'll retain my ownership stake and board seat, but I'll no longer have operational control. I need to step back and figure out who I want to be, because I don't like who I've become. Vision Tech will pay my father the full licensing fees owed, plus damages, $7 million for the unauthorized use of his innovations. I'll personally repay his initial investment with interest, and I'll resolve the fraudulent loan that never should have happened." He took a breath. "I can't undo what I've done. I can only move forward and try to be the man my parents raised me to be. It's a long road back, and I may never get there, but I have to try." Tyler stepped back from the podium. The room erupted with questions, but he ignored them, walking directly to where I sat. He extended his hand. I looked at it for a long moment, then stood and shook it. The cameras captured everything. Eleanor fielded questions for 20 minutes, confirming the settlement terms and explaining the legal framework. I said very little, only confirming that I accepted Tyler's apology and hoped he would learn from this experience. Then we left, escorted out through a back entrance to avoid the crowd. In the car, Tyler sat silently beside me. Eleanor had arranged for us to ride together, thought it would look better for the cameras. As we pulled away from the hotel, Tyler finally spoke. "Thank you. For what? For not destroying me completely, for leaving me a way back." I looked out the window at the San Francisco streets, busy with afternoon traffic. "Your mother used to say that people aren't their worst moments. They're what they do after those moments. Show me what you do next, Tyler. That's who you really are." He nodded, tears running freely now. We rode the rest of the way in silence. The settlement was finalized within 2 weeks. Vision Tech's lawyers were efficient, eager to close the matter before it impacted their next funding round. $7 million appeared in my bank account on a Wednesday morning. I stared at the number on my phone screen for a solid 5 minutes, unable to quite believe it was real. Eleanor called shortly after. "Congratulations. You're now a wealthy man. It doesn't feel real. Give it time. In the meantime, I have some interesting news. The publicity from your case has attracted attention. 3 companies have reached out wanting to license your other patents, the ones you filed but never commercialized." "Which ones?" "All of them. The precision calibration systems, the materials testing protocols, the quality assurance algorithms. Apparently, they're more valuable than anyone realized. The offers total approximately $15 million in licensing fees over 5 years. I sat down heavily on my couch. $15 million. Combined with the settlement, I had more money than I had ever imagined having. "There's more," Eleanor continued. "Stanford's engineering school called. They want you to teach a course on engineering ethics. They want to use your story as a case study for their students, preventing future Tylers, as they put it. Teaching, twice a week, graduate level. It pays well, and they're offering an office and full access to their research facilities. I think you'd be good at it, Desmond." I thought about it for maybe 30 seconds. Set up a meeting. "I'm interested." Over the next month, my life transformed in ways I had not anticipated. I bought a house with a view of the bay. Nothing extravagant, but comfortable and bright with big windows that Margaret would have loved. I set up an office, lined the walls with my patents in simple frames. They looked dignified there, honored rather than forgotten. The teaching position at Stanford started in the fall. I prepared my first lecture with nervous energy, wanting to get it right. On the first day, I stood in front of 40 graduate students and told them my story. Not the sanitized version, but the truth. My son's theft, the forgery, the humiliation, and the long road to justice. Engineering ethics isn't abstract, I told them. It's personal. It's about recognizing that every innovation, every patent, every line of code represents someone's work, someone's time, someone's life. When you steal that, you're not just breaking a law, you're breaking trust. And trust, once broken, is very hard to rebuild. The students listened intently. After class, several approached me with questions. One young woman, a second-year PhD student named Sarah, lingered. My brother did something similar, she said quietly. Used my research without credit. I've been so angry at him. Your story helped me understand that I can be angry and still love him. That those things aren't mutually exclusive. They're not. I agreed. Love doesn't mean accepting bad behavior. Sometimes love means holding people accountable. I started dating again, something I had not expected. Her name was Dorothy, and I met her at a university function. She taught literature, loved classical music, and had a laugh that reminded me of Margaret's. We took things slowly, both of us older and wiser about relationships. She did not replace Margaret. Nobody could. But she brought new joy into my life. Unexpected and welcome. Tyler and I spoke every Sunday. Brief conversations, mostly about ordinary things. He told me about his new job, a junior engineering position at a small firm in Oakland. He had sold his penthouse, moved into a modest apartment, drove a 10-year-old sedan. He was learning humility from the ground up. "It's strange," he said one Sunday. "I thought losing everything would destroy me. But I feel lighter now, like I can breathe again. That's what happens when you stop pretending to be something you're not," I said. He had started therapy, was working through his issues with validation and ego. He volunteered at a nonprofit teaching business ethics to young entrepreneurs, using his mistakes as cautionary tales. Slowly, gradually, I saw glimpses of the boy I had raised, the kind, curious, hard-working son Margaret had been so proud of. 6 months after the settlement, Vision Tech announced they were going public. Tyler's remaining shares would make him wealthy again, though nothing like before. He called me the night before the IPO. "I want you to know something," he said. "I'm putting half of what I make into a trust for engineering scholarships, in Mom's name. Students who show both technical skill and ethical character." "She would like that," I said, my throat tight. "I hope so. I'm trying to make her proud again. Make you proud. You're getting there, Tyler. One step at a time." The night before, I received my teaching award from Stanford, 6 months after everything had changed. Tyler called to say he would be in the audience. I was surprised. "You don't have to come," I said. "Yes, I do. You're being honored for teaching ethics through your own story. Our story. I should be there." The award ceremony was elegant, held in a beautiful hall on Stanford's campus. I wore a suit Margaret had bought me years ago, surprised it still fit. Dorothy sat in the front row, beaming, and 3 rows back, looking nervous and proud, sat Tyler. When they called my name, the room applauded. I accepted the award, a heavy crystal piece engraved with my name, and gave a brief speech about the importance of integrity in engineering. Afterward, at the reception, Tyler approached hesitantly. "Congratulations, Dad. Thank you for coming." We stood together at the window, looking out at the campus lights. Students walked past, carrying books and laughing with friends, their whole futures ahead of them. "A year ago, I was on a stage treating you like garbage," Tyler said quietly. "Tonight I watched you receive recognition you always deserved. The irony isn't lost on me. A year ago, I thought my life was over," I replied. "Turns out it was just beginning a new chapter. I'm sorry I tried to write you out of your own story." I put my hand on his shoulder, the way I used to when he was young. "You didn't write me out, Tyler. You just reminded me I was the author all along." We stood in comfortable silence, not fully healed, but healing. Not perfect, but present. A father and son, finding their way back to each other one difficult step at a time. 1 year after the gala, I stood in my new home office and watched the sunrise over San Francisco Bay. The morning light turned the water gold and pink, colors that took my breath away every single time. I had my coffee, strong and black the way I liked it, and my first lecture notes for the spring semester spread across my desk. Life had become something I had never anticipated. The teaching position at Stanford had evolved into something more than a job. It was a calling. Students sought me out for advice, not just about engineering, but about life, about ethics, about how to navigate success without losing themselves. I tried to give them what Tyler had needed and I had failed to provide: perspective. The patent licensing deals had gone through. $15 million, just as Eleanor had predicted. Combined with the settlement from Vision Tech, I had more money than I could spend in my remaining years. I had set up scholarships, donated to engineering programs, established a fund for laid-off workers over 50 who struggled to find new employment. Margaret would have approved. Dorothy and I had grown closer. She kept her own place, and I kept mine. But we spent most evenings together. We cooked dinner, listened to music, talked about everything and nothing. She had met Tyler twice now, remained cordial but cautious. "I'll trust him when he proves he's trustworthy," she said. I could not argue with that logic. Tyler had kept every promise he made. The scholarship fund in Margaret's name awarded its first grants last month, $10,000 each to 5 engineering students who demonstrated both technical excellence and ethical character. Tyler attended the award ceremony, shook each student's hand, told them his story as a warning. Success without integrity is just failure with better publicity, he told them. I had heard him use that line before, in his talks at the nonprofit. He was getting good at this, at turning his mistakes into lessons for others. His new company was doing well, not Vision Tech level, but solid, honest work in manufacturing optimization. He had 2 partners this time, people he trusted and who kept him accountable. He still called every Sunday without fail, our conversations growing longer and more comfortable as months passed. Last month, he had asked if I would come to his apartment for dinner. "I want to cook for you," he said, "the way Mom used to." I went. The apartment was small, clean, decorated with family photos I had not seen in years, pictures of Margaret, of the 3 of us together, of Tyler as a child. He had made her pot roast recipe, the one she used to make on Sundays. It was not perfect, a little dry, but the effort meant everything. "I'm dating someone," he told me over dinner. "Her name is Amanda. She's a high school teacher, very different from Brittany. Good different, real different. She doesn't care about money or status. She likes me for who I am now, not who I was pretending to be. I'd like to meet her, really." He looked surprised, hopeful. "Really? If she's important to you, then she's important to me." I had met Amanda 2 weeks later. She was genuine, warm, asked thoughtful questions and listened to the answers. She knew Tyler's story, the whole ugly truth, and had chosen to give him a chance anyway. "People can change," she told me privately. "I've seen him working at it every day. That's what matters." Now, standing in my office watching the sunrise, I reflected on how far we had all come. The journey from that humiliating moment on stage to this morning of peace and possibility had been painful, difficult, and absolutely necessary. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. "Teaching a seminar today on ethical business practices. Wish me luck." I texted back, "You don't need luck. You have something better. You have experience and hard-earned wisdom. Trust that." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Thanks, Dad. Love you. Love you too." 2 words I had not been able to say to him for over a year. 2 words that felt true again. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop to review today's lecture. The topic was intellectual property rights and family businesses, particularly relevant given my story. I had learned to talk about what happened without bitterness, presenting it as a case study in what can go wrong when success and ego override ethics and family bonds. My students appreciated the honesty. Several had told me that hearing about my experience had changed how they thought about their own careers, their own relationships. One student, the son of immigrants who had sacrificed everything for his education, had come to my office in tears. "My parents gave me everything," he said. "If I ever treated them the way your son treated you, I couldn't live with myself. Your story reminded me to honor them, not just with success, but with respect." That conversation stayed with me. It was why I kept teaching, kept telling my story even when it was uncomfortable. If I could prevent even one Tyler, help even one young person avoid that path of arrogance and betrayal, then everything I had been through had meaning. Eleanor called weekly, more friend now than lawyer. Any regrets? She asked during our last conversation. About pursuing the lawsuit? No, it needed to happen. What about how it ended? Letting Tyler keep his stake in the company, dropping the criminal charges? I thought about it. Justice isn't always about maximum punishment. Sometimes it's about appropriate consequences and room for redemption. Tyler lost his position, his reputation, his sense of invincibility. But he kept his dignity and a chance to rebuild. That feels right to me. You're a better man than most. I'm a father. That comes with certain complications. The engineering ethics course I taught had become one of Stanford's most popular electives. They had asked me to write a book about my experiences, combining personal narrative with technical discussion of patent law and family business ethics. I was considering it. Dorothy thought I should. Your story has power, she said. It shows that betrayal doesn't have to be the end, that families can heal. That success means nothing without integrity. People need to hear that. Maybe she was right. Maybe there was value in documenting not just what happened, but how we found our way through it. I finished my coffee, gathered my lecture notes, and prepared to head to campus. Before leaving, I stopped by the wall where my patents hung in their simple frames. 17 innovations, 40 years of work, finally recognized and valued. Tyler's company had generated $120 million using variations of these designs. I had received a fraction of that, but it was enough, more than enough. The real victory was not the money. It was standing here in my own home, respected in my field, teaching the next generation, building a new life with Dorothy, and slowly, carefully rebuilding a relationship with my son. The real victory was knowing my worth did not depend on Tyler's recognition of it. I had value, contribution, dignity, regardless of whether anyone acknowledged it. That was the lesson I hoped my students learned. Your worth is not determined by how others value you. It is determined by what you build, who you are, how you respond when tested. People will try to diminish you. Sometimes the people closest to you, the ones you love most, will hurt you the deepest. Tyler's betrayal had nearly broken me, but I had chosen to stand up, fight for what was mine, and still leave room for love and healing. That choice, that balance between justice and mercy, had changed everything. As I drove to Stanford, I thought about Margaret. She had believed in integrity, in doing the right thing even when it cost you. She had raised Tyler to be honest, hardworking, respectful. Somewhere along the way, he had lost those values. But the foundation she built was still there, buried under years of ego and ambition. The lawsuit, the consequences, the hard lessons had stripped away the false layers and forced him back to that foundation. I liked to think she would be proud of how I handled it. Firm but not cruel. Just but not vindictive. Holding Tyler accountable while refusing to destroy him completely. My first student arrived early. A young woman named Jennifer who reminded me of Margaret in her fierce intelligence and moral clarity. Professor Desmond, I've been thinking about your case. The thing that strikes me most is how your son's partners tried to throw him under the bus. That betrayal within betrayal. What about it? It shows that unethical behavior tends to cluster. People without integrity attract others like them, and then they turn on each other when things go wrong. But ethical people build different networks, support systems, like you had with Eleanor. I smiled. You're exactly right. Choose your partners carefully, not just for their skills, but for their character. Because when things go wrong, and they will, character is what determines how people respond. The classroom filled with students, eager and bright, their futures unwritten. I thought about Tyler at their age, full of promise and possibility. Thought about the choices he had made, the path he had taken, the painful journey back. Today we're going to talk about the real cost of unethical behavior. I began. Not just legal costs or financial penalties, but human costs. The relationships destroyed, the trust broken, the person you become when you abandon your principles for success. I told them my story, The same story I had told dozens of times now, but it never got easier. The humiliation at the gala, the discovery of Tyler's theft, the forged documents, the long road to justice. The students listened with the intensity of people learning lessons they hoped never to need personally. The question I want you to consider, I said as the lecture ended, is this. What would you do if someone you loved, someone you raised or mentored or believed in, betrayed you completely? What would your response be? How do you balance justice with compassion? How do you hold people accountable while leaving room for them to change? The students filed out, many staying to ask follow-up questions. Jennifer lingered until the room was empty. I hope I never face what you faced, she said. But if I do, I hope I handle it with as much wisdom and grace as you did. The grace came later, I admitted. First came anger and hurt and the desire for revenge. Grace took time. But you got there. That's what matters. Walking to my car after my last class, I checked my phone. A message from Tyler. Amanda said yes, we're engaged. Can we have dinner this weekend to celebrate? She wants to get to know you better. I stood in the parking lot, reading those words over and over. Tyler was getting married. To a woman who knew his worst mistakes and chose him anyway. To someone who was helping him become the man he was meant to be. I texted back, "Congratulations. Dinner sounds wonderful. Dorothy and I will be there." 4 people who barely knew each other a year ago, coming together as something like family. Strange, imperfect, but real. Life had taught me that families are not just built on blood. They're built on honesty, respect, accountability, and the willingness to do hard things for people you love. Tyler and I had done those hard things. We had faced the truth, however ugly. We had chosen accountability over easy forgiveness, and now, slowly, we were building something new on that foundation of truth. It would never be what it was before, the innocence, the unquestioning trust, the easy love of parent and child. Those were gone forever. But what we had now was stronger in some ways, tested and proven, built on reality rather than illusions. That evening, I sat on my deck, watching the sunset with Dorothy. She was reading, and I was just thinking, processing the day and the year and the journey. "You're quiet," she observed. "Just grateful," I said. A year ago, I thought my life was over. I was broke, humiliated, betrayed by my own son. I felt worthless. And now I have work that matters. Students who value what I teach, financial security, you, and a son who's learning to be the man his mother believed he could be. She put down her book, took my hand. "You did that, Desmond. You stood up for yourself. You fought for what was right. But you also left room for healing. That took courage." Margaret always said that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. She was wise. She was. I wish she could see where we ended up. I think she'd be proud. I think she'd be very proud. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the day fade into night. Tomorrow I would teach again, continue building this new life. Tyler would work at becoming the husband Amanda deserved. Dorothy would finish her book on modern American literature. And somewhere, students would read about my case and learn that integrity matters, that family is complicated, that justice and mercy can coexist. Before I turn off these thoughts and rest for the night, I want to leave you with something to consider. Think about the people in your life, especially those closest to you. Are you honoring them? Are you treating them with the respect they deserve? Or are you, like Tyler was, so caught up in your own success and status that you've forgotten the people who helped you get there? Success means nothing if you achieve it by stepping on the people who love you. Money means nothing if you earn it through betrayal. Status means nothing if you gain it by diminishing others. Your worth, your real worth, comes from your character, from how you treat people when it costs you something, from whether you can look at yourself in the mirror and respect the person looking back. Tyler learned that lesson the hard way. I hope you can learn it more easily. If my story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever faced a situation where someone you trusted betrayed you? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, taught you something, or made you think differently about success and integrity, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people facing real challenges and finding their way through. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Someone struggling with betrayal or someone who needs a reminder about what truly matters in life. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for taking the time to consider these questions about integrity, family, and the real meaning of success. I hope you find your own path to wisdom without having to walk through as much pain as I did. But if you do face that pain, I hope you remember that it doesn't have to destroy you. It can transform you, if you let it. Take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. Remember that the measure of a person is not in their achievements, but in their character. Not in what they gain, but in what they give. Not in how high they rise, but in how they treat people on the way up and, more importantly, on the way down.